Hello everybody, welcome back to the Jeep Journals, and today I want to talk about cravings in relation to getting fit again. And so in this particular journey, I've talked about getting fit and then getting unfit by basically changing the types of food that I've been having. And so with that in mind, what I'd like to do is showcase a different weekly segment which is presented strongly to you in a way that resonates. And so we're talking about cravings first in this practically first episode of basically getting things back on track again. So when it comes to cravings, sometimes we associate cravings with food and with different things that are things that we would consume, but we don't always consider that the things that we consume don't always just include things that would give us nutrients. For one example, if we crave hearing music, we might always want to put that radio on when we get into the car. We might always want to have that subscription that basically covers all of the stations that we want to hear from. We might always want to shell out our hard-earned energy to get that thing that we're craving. So when it comes to craving, we also have to crave being healthy in order for us to become healthy. To become healthy and strong, we need to want it in our own selves. And to want something means that you're basically gonna be able to prioritize and go without. It's why when I talk about addiction, a lot of us who are addicts, who are addicted to things, will prioritize out of their lives anything that takes place of that pleasure that they want to experience. For an example, in a lot of our demographics, we have adults who only want to be watching TV, who only want to have all of the most amazing curbside options delivered to them, and who only want to be able to pay for it at a fixed income without ever considering the additional hurdles that it's taking to satisfy those cravings. Just as one odd example, I not long ago began talking about plastics and one-time use and how they can probably be detrimental to our environment as they are to ourselves. The more plastics we put into the environment, the more animals that consume these plastic particulates, the more we ourselves are ingesting those things. And so it behooves us to reduce the number of possible items that we're consuming errantly and without thinking about it. So during the past few months, what I've done in attempts to try and get things back on track or to reduce the waste that has been coming out of my own household. And so I've held on to all of the packaging and boxes that have come from any normal or otherwise abnormal delivery that has been received here. And we've also done our best to curb the entirety of it so that it's recyclable, or at least post-consumer recycled product. And there are so many options that allow us to do that, and yet, for whatever reason, in order to continue to maintain these conveniences, just as an example, if we are ordering some kind of a toilet paper that doesn't typically come from the consumer stores that are next to us, and we're doing that because we don't want the bulk rolls that are wrapped in plastic. And we're doing that because we don't want the items that are bleached and triple processed and harvested from unsustainable resources. Then what we're doing is investing money, energy into the system that is basically something that we had to go out of our way to do. In order to do, you guys get that? You like it? In order to do better, what we need to do is consider that first, if we have a craving to do better, we're going to look for the better alternative. And the less that we're generating in terms of plastic particulates, be it a bottle of water or a package of toilet paper or a bottle of vodka or whatever plastic type things are sold to us, then what we're going to do is start to refine this process to where we're only consuming and reciprocating energies that make sense. And to crave that means that we need to crave a different level of quality when it comes to the things that we're attempting to engage with. If we want to interact with one another and not ever bring to light the fact that there are definitely substantial differences, even in terms of price points, in regards to what we receive for the energy that we put out there, then we can also recognize that the same is true with what we consume. If the energies we're consuming don't have a pure format, don't have a pure frequency, aren't, for an example, plant-based, if they're animal-based, then we're also absorbing all of the process that went into the animal, which would mean, let's say that I had a typical American meal right now probably is brisket or a hamburger or, fried something or another, almost always an animal product accompanied with some semblance of vegetables. If I have an animal product and if it was herded in fear and also for a profit into a circumstance where basically I could get this tremendous value meal, then you have to understand that corners were cut. And corners were cut so much that packaging was even able to be included with this discounted version of the energy that I've been accepting. So I've had cravings for all kinds of curbside conveniences, and you can see it. And I've basically tried to run the gamut of fitting in with the crowd that I'm surrounded by. And to fit into the crowd that I'm surrounded by is detrimental to my own health. Your results may vary. However, in my experience, and it might just be because of my experience, the more I know about how damaging these animal products are and all of the packaging that comes with these items and all of the apathy that comes with how this food was brought to us, the energy with which it was brought to us, the more I learn that my health also directly reflects what it is that I've been consuming. So in my life, I don't really consume a lot of TV. I don't really consume a lot of news. I'm barely on any social media channels except for this one. And all in all, I'm walking the trails almost daily, trying to find out, where did our animals go? Why is it only plastic litter that I'm encountering on the trails? What other song is this going to inspire? What other person is this going to inspire? Who am I going to meet? What solutions are we going to come up with? And while I'm doing it, I'm learning that I'm craving walking. I'm learning that I'm craving seeing these interesting facets of wildlife that I'm currently missing, that I'm not seeing because it's not there, or it's not there the way that it was before. So as I'm craving better foods and better choices to alleviate the troubles that are occurring in our food industry and our shipping industries, as I'm craving all of that, I start to eliminate the thought process of just continuing to consume. Now, in many of our scripts, in many of our groups, there are even the groups that get mad at me. They say they're chosen ones, and the chosen ones are always the ones pointing at me and saying that I'm doing something wrong. We've all done something wrong. If you're not a sinner, then basically go ahead and check out of this channel to begin with. If you're a sinner, raise your hand, click on that thumbs up, and subscribe, because we can't learn from just our own mistakes. We can also learn from other people's mistakes. And right now I'm talking about craving, and you know who you are. There are addicts who I'm speaking with right now who know exactly who they are. And for whatever reason, they'll continue to push and push and push and come up with reasons to nitpick over words and why we're not going to communicate together. And that's the type of narcissistic quality that will get you in trouble. If you crave being in those high drama frequencies, that's the kind of thing that's bad for your heart. That's the kind of thing that's causing you to need some kind of medication for your blockage in your heart. Harden not your hearts. The more that we crave one another's presence, the more that we crave those embraces, the more that we crave each other's happiness, the more that we crave each other's wellness, the more that we ourselves will want to bring that into our own proximity. So as a natural order, the law of attraction is we are what we consume. Right now, I've consumed enough to fit in basically all of the segments of consumerism that I've ever wanted to fit in. However, I can't necessarily fit into all my clothes anymore. So this is one of the aspects of cravings that I'm talking about. I am an addict. I have been addicted probably for my whole life. And without knowing it, we continue these cycles by just going ahead and agreeing with our fathers. And I don't mean that in a sacrilegious way or a disrespectful way. What I mean to imply is in the same way that someone like Dave Chappelle can talk about a topic and say, hey, I'm trying to raise awareness on both sides. And for whatever reason, a singular word is tripping us up. It's tripping someone up. It's because we've been divided. And if you don't understand how division works, well, just stand around long enough and you'll find out how divided you are when all of your friends and family fall away because you're making the right choices. As you make the right choices and you crave it, you can't help but understand what walking the true path is like. A real chosen one is someone who puts in the effort too. When you're entitled, you think you're chosen and you can call out anyone you want using any kind of a number of terms and slander and disregard. However, that's not going to stand in the house of any creator. In the house of the creator, anything that doesn't belong, it's wiped out, baby. That's the way that it's told in every story. And whether you believe that or not, when you crave goodness, you create inspiration among one another. And you bring naturally the conversations that are there to happen. And what's going to happen with those soulmates that you meet is that you're going to oftentimes be met with some people who they really want what you're talking about, and they also really don't want to. They want to choke you. they don't want to be in your proximity because you're too much. You are too much to handle for someone who is not in your league. If they're not in your league, don't worry about it. You know, people come back around if they want to. That's all there is to it. When we show each other respect and say, hey, I respect your choices. I recognize that there are addictions. I recognize we're not here being judged over addiction. And I recognize that there is absolute trouble. There are shipping delays after food shortages, after global crises, after wars, after there's an afterbirth. Something needs to be cleaned up. And there are not very many true service workers. There are not really too many creative people who are coming up with solutions so much as they're coming up with, thanks for the benefits. Thanks for that job offer. I'm so happy to have this. I'm happy to have that. We're all in the same boat. We're all programmed and conditioned in certain ways if we ever were exposed to the curriculum here in this country. And I don't mean that in a demeaning or derogatory way. What I mean is, as you watch my episodes, as they air, the things that I captured from a 4-day trip across 8 different states, you'll see these structures that were built. You'll see structures that are larger than you can even imagine having been built in our previous civilizations. Because in our history books, at least at the schools that I went to, which included a private school, a public school, college, and any other level of education that you could count on from that education that we can be exposed to here in this great country. With all of those levels of education, never once was I made aware of a civilization that built large structures that were aligned to the constellations. Those people from that era did math and calculations that were mind-boggling. They are definitely something that rivaled what mathematicians of today's era can do. However, their trade included things like amazingly crafted pots with chocolate, which was probably the food of trade industry back then. Chaco Canyon is what I'm talking about. If you've never seen Chaco Canyon, look at my other current segments as they post. You're going to see this journey unfolding, where you're learning about foods, where you're learning about, hey, I wasn't taught everything that I needed to learn. And now that I understand, now that I'm hearing this person, now that I'm recognizing that I used to be biased, that I used to be a bigot, well, it takes one to know one. Welcome. Thank you so much. Please click on like and subscribe. Go ahead and share this video if you'd like to. Definitely comment if you have something in your heart to say. And for sure, consider clicking on the description to find my own personal email address if you'd like to email me to discuss any of these topics further. The fact of the matter is, without quality, we don't have anything going into the equation except for somebody who told us how to make something. If we only have the idea to just continue serving up bottle after bottle of water, of vodka, of juices, of carbonated beverages, of sugar, of ill health inducing substances, if that's all we can serve up out of our creative venture that we call humanity right now in this era, if that's all we can serve up, I don't know if I want to go through that drive-through again. What I would like to do is to bring about a holistic approach of conversation. I've put together some songs. I've talked about sustainable products. In fact, I'm wearing a shirt. It's a shirt from a company that sent me a shirt, which it's great. You hear on my channel, I don't talk about adding more promotional items to the mix, but it's something that I happened to be wearing today. And because I'm wearing it, for some people who don't know, big ass fans make some fans like the fan I've got overhead. Let me show you. It's made of bamboo, a sustainable wood. The technology in it is warranted for life. It's manufactured locally from what the company has divulged. And all of these things are products that are in existence that we have a need for. But what if one company is making the product out of sustainable woods, and what if the other company is just making the most inexpensive that they can, packaged in a way that everybody can theoretically have it? What if the product that breaks down all the time wasn't even worth the initial startup price? What if the toxins that are being produced from making even more of both quantities are beyond salvageable? And what if we could renovate all of our existing warehouses, our big box stores, to carry things that basically once someone passes out of the system or graduates from toddlerhood to whatever the next level is, once all those plastic toys are done being used, maybe they get repurposed, rebuilt, reused, resanitized, restored at a membership fee. What if our membership fee could restore our health? What would we do? What would that other famous person do? What would they do? If there were options in existing systems with existing technology that was able to immediately barcode every item, categorize every piece of inventory, and put it into some kind of use. All of these things should be considered as broadly as possible when we think about cravings. But if I'm craving going to get a guitar, I'm going to go to a guitar warehouse. In this particular case and era, I find a lot of guitars on this site called Reverb. And on Reverb, you have tons of inventory, all kinds of inventory, old and brand new, over and over and over. We're still producing brand new, but there are so many instruments globally right now, used and unused, and used and unused at the same time, if that makes sense, to where everybody who would like an instrument probably can play an instrument. I mean, look, in my proximity, right now on the screen you're looking at, you can see 6 guitars. There's one right here, in case you didn't know it. You can see 6 guitars at least. Little did you know, there are 9 guitars in here. I could have 9 people playing music at the same time. I could have a class. This is a class. How do you like this class where we're talking about all kinds of open-minded thoughts that don't limit ourselves to say, hey, I'm perfect. How I'm doing it is just fine. But instead, open our hearts to say, hey, I can learn something new. I absolutely want to learn it with someone who I understand these thoughts from. I used to watch rock bands when I was growing up, and I like the way that this guy presents their music, their message. Their message is being sung from their heart. If you like what I'm saying, if you understand what I'm talking about and like the direction that I'm talking about, which is positive, then you're going to crave it. You're going to crave it so much that you can't help but click the thumbs up. And you can't help but click on like. You can't help but have a conversation with me, because that's what we were meant to do. We're here learning together, trying to overcome the limitations of our minds that are keeping us in the same constant ills. And that ill health can manifest in a lot of ways. For me, when I eat differently, I manifest excess weight. That's basically the way it is. When I weigh more, I tend to run a hotter temperature. And when I run at a warmer temperature, I walk around, kind of sweaty. That's not comfortable. Animals who are being herded into the slaughter to be fed to us, and the animals know it based on all the smells around them. Think about the smells that these animals go through in the environments that they're being processed in. If we are not processing these things humanely and with love, who is? Is it the one that's bringing us the meal at such a discount that it can include all of this superior packaging that we can just throw away? If we're being consumers of just what was led to the slaughter, it's a tough way to live. It's kind of scary. It's kind of an anxious world. When we talk about anxiety, which is a part of our health, and a lot of our generalized population will tell us, we can get together, but we can't talk about health. We can't talk about religion. We can't talk. What else can't we talk about? Can we not talk about food? Can we not talk about these plastic iterations? Everything in the economy says this place it's great. We got people getting paid. We got unemployment. People can get jobs if they want. The payments are high. The rates are high for new employees. There are benefits out there for everyone. What if everybody is living on credit? What if many people who might have a large bank account for future retirement possibilities also has a large expense? Unpaid houses, unpaid vehicles, unpaid bills, unpaid tuitions, unpaid apologies. What if we're all running on credit so much that we never pay back our obligations? For me, that basically had been my addiction for a long time. I put everything on credit. It was a fun game at first. In the beginning, I would pay off my entire bill all the time. That way I could get that 1% cash back. Or the free t-shirt. Living on credit and forget it. Using money is not a bad thing. Getting out of control with cravings by consuming when we've clearly had enough to consume, by continuing to consume, that is addiction level stuff. Addiction level stuff comes from nervous, habitual, pre-programmed thought logic that never seems to catch up to itself. So the first thing that we want to do when we think about getting healthy, when we really think about getting healthy, is look at cravings, look at it in a way where it's like, this gets me wound up, gets me excited to think, if I reduce all of the things that I had been consuming, and if I centralize it down to what my own purpose is. For an example, some people might love quilting. Produce quilts. Give them to the homeless. Give them to the pet shelters. Give them to your friends and family. But right now, the way that the world is there are many upcoming holidays, one of which we know that we probably could do without shopping for. Anyone who's hearing this today, I hope that instead of giving a gift, you share this video with the person that would have received some errant plastic piece of one-time use generosity. I'm not angry at the items. I'm concerned that the wildlife is being decimated by our poor decisions. Our poor decisions are more than just overlooking one acronym versus one ethnicity. Our poor decisions have to do with not doing the right thing that resonates in our heart. When somebody greets us, whether they're angry, peaceful, or pleasant, the last thing we want to do is exacerbate a situation. In order to respond with the proper frequency, which is to neutralize the devastation, we ourselves have to have positivity. In order to express positivity, we need to consider consuming positivity. If we're going to hear knowledge that's basically causing us anxiety, the first thing we need to do is think about, why are we anxious? Is it because it's true? Because if it's true, we need to consider hearing the entire message. Once we hear the entire message, only then can we decide, should I have been taking statins my whole life, or should I have reduced the animal cholesterol that leads to those type of numbers that cause me to need statins to begin with? Statins come in plastic bottles. If I can eliminate statins, not only do I eliminate trips to the doctor, I eliminate the copay that I had to pay, I eliminate the side effects that came with it, I eliminate the plastic bottle, and as an unusual side effect, I eliminate the backlog of work that's happening so that people who do need temporary assistance can get temporary assistance. If we're not looking at it this way, if we're only looking at it from the point of benefits and pay and comfort, then we're just going to continue business as usual. Business as usual. The truth is, the world was not able to continue business as usual years ago. We know it. We know that it's been misrepresented based on when we go for a walk. At this wilderness area that I go to, where I share these videos from, and even on all of these videos that are airing now, you'll see I go out of my way to document the wildlife that I see. For whatever reason, it seems like snakes go out of their way to be documented by me right now. And it's possibly because a lot of snakes in my own group recognize themselves and they go, I liked your stuff until you showed a snake. I liked your stuff until you showed a scary image. I liked your stuff until you showed a dragon. I liked your stuff until you said this word or the other. That's bigotry. Look up the definition in the dictionary, or better yet, since you're at a computer, go and type in bigotry. Definition, bigotry. Go ahead, I'll give you time. I'm going to have to paraphrase because I'm not searching this word live, but I'm going to tell you, it has something to do with not even recognizing the thoughts of some other entity because of any difference that entity might have, whether it's self-categorized or generally categorized into an acronym type classification, whether it's categorization based on gender, whether it's categorization based on ethnicity. Any categorization that we don't give credit to as something that could possibly be stopping our mind. Any categorization, for an example, hearing someone talk about eating better, and as soon as they said, hey, eat less animals, anything that blanks out your ability to hear anything past that, it's bigotry. It's bias. The only reason we don't think about it this way is because it's not taught to us that way. What's taught to us is, as long as you do these things and comply by the laws, you're going to be okay. Let me be the first to tell you, the way that we're going to be okay is by taking care of ourselves first and then helping someone else apply their own mask. We need to, and in this case, we're helping someone else remove their own mask. You're now free to move about your daily routine. I think a half hour today is good enough for this first segment where we're talking about wellness and conservation. I hope you understand when it comes to cravings, the first thing you might want to do, try to do something else. Today, I basically worked out. I hit the treadmill, used the weights, did some push-ups, did some sit-ups, did some curls. And after that, I took an absolute all the way cold water shower, these are things that I'm having to do to catch up to the things that I've consumed, which have caused me a certain level of health at this point, which I have caused myself, I should say. I accept responsibility for that which I am. I do my best to work with what I've got, and I'm bringing to you an example that says, hey, we can learn to crave what's right. And not only that, it comes naturally. Once it comes naturally, you can't help but be back on track. And so I'm showing you myself today, and I want to do this on a weekly basis. In a few weeks, I'm going to be heading out to Big Bend National Park, where I'm basically needing to be in my peak physical shape. And so I'm doing everything I can to streamline myself right back down to knocking out the mission and basically being able to be fully present as I'm needed in whatever capacity I'm needed. So as someone who's helping someone into an outdoor adventure, you never know what you're going to be presented with. However, like I've told in the past, for whatever reason, I'm encountering a lot of different serpents. And so for that possibility alone, I want to make sure that I'm on full alert. I'm physically capable of not having to, stumble around while I'm walking these long distances under less than ideal conditions, or less than paved sidewalk conditions, I should say. They're more than ideal because I'll be 100% in nature. I'm going to do what I can to bring you those video segments. I hope you enjoy watching the daily segments that are being posted as well. In these daily segments, you're going to find over and over that I'm talking about cravings, self-control, addiction, and all these things that you might previously have been anxious about, but today I want to set you free from that. You no longer are bound to those addictions because you've learned that you're able to replace something with another thing. You're able to shift actions, and better than that, you're able to disconnect. If there's too much social media going on, disconnect, delete the account. In one case, we think of so many things as permanent, and in another instant, we're going to recognize there was an impermanence to this that only gave us the time we have with one another to share the good news. So until next time, for all the chosen ones and not so chosen ones and overlooked ones and downtrodden ones and obsessed ones and inspired ones, we're all the same. We're all the same. We're going through this process, learning things individually to refine what it is that we're being faced with. For me, I'm being faced with nature and learning to accept that I can't grow it all. I haven't nurtured it all. I didn't do a great job of nurturing it all to begin with. And since I've accepted that, I'm able to look into the next steps, which are what can I do to make things better? So I've got a garden going that I need to spend a little bit more time with than I do here. And so for that reason, again, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope that you understand this message. I hope that you have a redefined version of what cravings are. And I hope that you stick with me and check this out each week. I'm probably going to even make a new category for this one. I don't know what it's going to be called yet. I'll name it in the description. But in this particular category, it's going to be posted each week. This is maybe the next to last week, 3 weekends before the next to last week of October. Maybe it is the next to last weekend of October. Whatever this is, this message is going to resonate with anyone who is basically on track with peace. And since it's going to resonate with that is the key to deciphering the rest of anything else that I've shared. in whatever key I've sang it, whether it was in anger, whether it was in hostility, whether it was in depression, whatever it was in. Once you understand what I'm talking about, you will hear the things that I'm saying. And when you hear the things I'm saying, I hope that it gives pause to us all to have inner reflection so that we can see. I've been talking a lot about a lot of things that I've done, which I'm uncomfortable with, which might make you a little bit standoffish about. But I'm not talking about you, I'm talking with you. I welcome your conversation. I welcome your comments. I welcome your support. You know, I hope I'm supporting you in your journey. If there's anything I can do better, if there's any version of something that you liked on this channel that I can present more often, please let me know, especially in the comments segment on this same page. I strongly appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.